What's good, YouTube? This is Charles from Team COG coming at you guys here with that time of the season where every other huge content creator and tiny content creator out there go and get free content, which is the ban list prediction. And then when the ban list comes out, they try like, oh, I told you so. And normally I don't divulge in this type of stuff. I don't stoop down to that level, but it's to that point to where content is content. And I actually do want to discuss some of these ban list stuff because I feel like for too long I've been really quiet in my opinions and all that stuff. So please remember, if you guys want to help support the channel, you can do so by hitting that subscribe button, dinging that notification bell, becoming a member, supporting the channel directly, or you can go over and give me a follow or a sub over on twitch.tv/team_COG. There we go. Go over there and give me a follow there. But without further ado, for those people who are here, let's go ahead and talk about the ban list. All right. So hopefully this time around, we saw in the previous ban list, Konami was like, let's hit all generic problems. Surely that did a lot, Konami. Am I right?
Wow, this is garbage.
That solved the issue with Snake Eyes pretty soundly. No, clear it did not. Snake Eyes has been one of the most prominent, and literally the elephant in the room is that Snake Eyes is the best deck. Or why it shouldn't be elephant, it is the snake in the room. You know, one thing I kind of would like to look back is how come in some of the most toxic formats we've seen as recent years, there's always a snake involved. Anywho, so we're going to hopefully pray that this ban list comes before the North American Nationals and the EU Nationals, because with Fiendsmith on the horizon, it's without a doubt that Fiendsmith Snake Eyes will be the best deck. And Snake Eyes has literally dominated multiple high-tier events consistently. Like, it's not even been, like, close. The only other deck that's been good with them is a Labyrinth, and truly the answer to fixing Snake Eyes is banning Big Welcome. Jokes aside, Konami would really blow my mind if they touched Big Welcome. However, I mean, they banned his old for, like, literally popping her head at 1 YCS, and so just saying, Labyrinth has popped his head at 2 YCSs, so maybe, you know, give a little smack on the wrist to Labyrinth here, because it's being too good in the Tier 0 format. But anywho, don't do that. Just don't, that's not their way. So what I would like to see happen is, not gonna lie, Flameburge, big old dragon, gone. Ban it. The card like that, that's literally soul charge from the graveyard. Whenever it's sent, soul charge your turn, my turn, the player down the table's turn, needs to be gone. Ban that card, get rid of it. And then I also say that we limit Snake Eyes Ash. But Charles, that card has an ultimate rare coming out in the OTS. Konami has done less crazy crap. Like, truly, Konami has done less crazier stuff. Put it to 1, let people get their ultimates. There you go. Maybe you don't put it to 1, maybe you leave it alone, maybe the hit the Flameburge will be good enough. I mean, we could technically take an approach of good old Jesse Cotton's approach of banning Oak. You know what, man? I'm so tired of Snake Eyes. I say limit Ash, limit Oak, ban Flameburge. And sadly, probably OSS should probably go. I'm very biased towards that card, I'm not going to lie, because I use it as an additional 1-for-1 in Infernobles, and it's just like, oh, this card's fair because it's in my pet deck. I'm not going to hide behind that. OSS is another form of 1-for-1. So arguably 1-for-1's at 1. OSS has not been played at anything more than 1, so that means something in this package of either Witch, Wanted, or OSS needs to go. And truly, I don't know the type of route to go. Maybe you limit the Witch. You put Witch to 1, limit Wanted, leave OSS alone. It kills consistently, leaving the engine alive. But also, you gotta look at plot armor. The Witch is pretty much the main antagonist. Or main antagonist. We don't know yet. Main antagonist, maybe. The protagonist of the new storyline, very much like Visa Starfrost and Avram of the World Legacy, and stuff like that. So, you need to take that in consideration that they probably won't touch the Witch. The Witch is supposed to be played in every deck. And Wanted is that way you get to Witch, so probably the correct route is banning the original Sinful Spoil, which even though I don't want to see it happen, it's probably going to be the way to go, because then that cuts off every variant of all these horrible variants of Snake Eyes, because that's essentially what we devolved into, is what flavor of Snake Eyes are you playing? I'm playing this variant. Oh, you're playing the worst version of the deck that I'm playing, which is pure Snake Eyes. I think OSS kills the bridge to all this type of stuff while keeping the Wanted package alive for future products to come out with the D. Bellstar story. Now, what I would like to see is probably a limit to Wanted, and that might be good enough, because that means you have to play more Witch, with multiple Witches are bricks, and 1 Wanted, which means you're only going to be able to, like, get that draw 1, and you keep OSS alive for the Fire decks who get to abuse it. But the Age of Fire has been ridiculous. I think that Dark Souls reference, the Age of Fire needs to come to an end. I think that the way you do that is you get rid of OSS and limit the Wanted. And then let's also not forget about the gimmick puppet bullshit that goes on. Like, what kind of, like, I understand Branded is a skillful deck, right? Like, I understand Branded is a very skillful deck that requires a very good pilot to play, but the puppet lock is just so...
Brother,
Just kind of feel like the puppet lock and cards like the puppet limit that deck's ability. So then what do you do? Konami's like, let's ban that trap. God, it was a Branded trap a long time ago, but then Konami's like, let's give you that trap in the form of a monster. It was Sanctifier. And I know, I'm like gonna tell you, like, I think Sanctifier is a pretty crazy card. I think it is supposed to be the boss monster that, not Mirror Jade, that the deck ends on. And it's sad because what that Sanctifier was designed to do was to summon Fallen of Albaz plus one of their monsters to your opponent's side of the field, and then Albaz on summon, discard Fuse. That's like what that entire strategy was for. Instead, just with the amount of cards that exist, such as Ra's Disciple, the Gimmick Puppet, and stuff like that. And Konami has to address it, because if you kill Snake Eyes, the next best deck will probably be Branded. Could be Tempai, I don't know, but I feel like Tempai, as good as it is, falls short in some things that Branded does not fall short in, and Branded just has some crazy consistency and combos and stuff like that. Should Konami go through and totally get rid of all these cards that lock you for turns? I believe so. They definitely should. But I think the card to go will be Sanctifier Dragon if, hypothetically, if they decide to touch Branded in some form or fashion, because Branded has also been doing good in the competitive scene, and you can't just go through and kill a Snake Eyes without leaving these other decks untouched, because then we already know what the next best deck could potentially be. But the next best deck and the next best like decks are still way better than what we have now. I'd rather see Branded, Labyrinth, Tempai than seeing just non-stop of Snake Eyes, Snake Eyes, Snake Eyes. So I think Sanctifier is gonna that Sanctifier could go. Let's just say that. I don't want Sanctifier to go because I'm, I like Sanctifier. I do think that Sanctifier is a pretty cool card. It's just sad that it's being abused by other cards outside of what it was designed to properly do. And it's just the way that Yu-Gi-Oh works, man. And now we've went ahead and talked about OSS. We've talked about Wanted. We've talked about the snake in the room, which is Snake Eyes. Now let's go ahead and talk about some other hits that could potentially happen. I think that we could maybe see something happen to also IP Masquerena and, hear me out, and Apollousa. Now, Konami has done this thing where we've been thinking that they're going to go through and hit all the, generic negators. I don't know about that. Like I said, if the last list that they did proved that it did absolutely nothing. So all it did was hurt more rogue and tier 2 strategies. Even though if you exclude the Baron, Savage Link Rebo, every rogue deck or every other type of deck felt that hit more so than Snake Eyes, right? So maybe they're going to go down the list and start getting rid of these generic negators. But here's the thing with Apollousa. It's not an Omni Negate. Apollousa by no means is an Omni Negate. It's just a monster negate that can only activate once per chain. Yes, every deck can make it. Every deck can, somehow use it. But it's not that crazy and it's not that hard to out. And I know you can't justify a card's brokenness by cards that out it. But I mean, if you look at the plethora of cards that exist in the game that are being played, and the fact that it's once per chain, and constructing your chain links to block it out is a very skillful thing, it's kind of a fair card in a way. I mean, every deck can put it up, but that doesn't mean every deck should. And just because every deck should doesn't mean every deck potentially will. Apollousa is just kind of like a Hail Mary. Sometimes you get hand-trapped enough and you just put all your eggs in one basket, and that basket is Apollousa, and maybe it does, maybe it works. Most of the time, I don't know about you guys, my Apollousa either eats an imperm, droplet, it gets taken by tactics. So it's in a way, it's okay. Now let's move on into IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena is a card I think that should more than likely, even though all these, okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this right now in the middle of the video instead of at the beginning. These are just my opinions and my beliefs. They're not solid. Konami will do what Konami does. Konami and their all expiring wisdom will do it. Whatever they see fit, right? But IP is one of those cards that make SP pretty crazy. And SP is a pretty crazy link to in modern standards, right? Arguably, SP should probably not exist. I mean, if cards like Halka Fibrax, Isolde, Aromage Jasmine, what are some other link twos that exist? The Raid Raptor Force Tricks and stuff like that. And some of these are banned. Hulk, Isolde, etc. This link 2 should not exist. This card literally, SP Little Knight is insane. But is Konami going to hit SP? No, because they can make more money off SP. So probably the hit to keep SP safe, stop some of the abuse, would probably be IP. IP was also reprinted in the Rated Collection. And if people are following the similar events, Savage, Baron were reprinted in the Raid Collection 1, and they got whoosh, the axed. So I guess if you follow the pattern, but Konami doesn't follow patterns. I actually will say that Konami is just kind of like an oddball out there. It'll fling whatever it'll fling. And sometimes, yes, there's multiple coincidences, but then you get like this totally off the wall that makes no sense, last ban list, type of thing. And people are going to tell me, oh, the last ban list made sense. It absolutely, it made sense. So what did it fix? Please tell me. I will wait.
A few moments later.
Absolutely flipping nothing. It fixed nothing. Snake Eyes still dominated. This might be a video just made to like rant about the last ban list because I didn't make a video about the last ban list. Or did I? I can't remember. Anyway, so yes, I do believe that IP and potentially Appaloosa could be on the chopping block, and arguably I'd say maybe this is like bias in me. I like Appaloosa as a card. I think that the card is very well designed. I think the card is fundamental for a lot of decks to be able to push into like certain inboards because Konami does not make every deck fair. Konami chooses what decks they want, right? And yeah, so I believe that has to go. I think one of these cards are going to be hit in some form or fashion. We'll see. Moving on, I believe Skill Drain. I'm tired of my skill being sucked out from me because I really don't have a lot of skill to start out with, and the little bit I have is getting bled from me with this card. I think that this is one of the last Floodgates that need to be limited. It's kind of interesting that Skill Drain was limited for a long time, and they moved it to 3, only for them to start popping down the line and limiting all the other Floodgates. So I think, potentially, Skill Drain could be put to 1 as well with all the Floodgates. Now, bear with me real quick, guys. What if instead of... not instead of, but also they go through the hand traps too. They're like Ash to 1, Ogre to 1, Effectively to 1. They go down all the hand traps that are the Ghost Girls essentially and go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. How crazy would that?
Think I'm not crazy. I'm not Florida, man.
That would be kind of nutty, wouldn't it? I'd be here for it. So with that being said, I do believe that Skill Drain is on a chopping block, but for the most part, that's kind of all you need to do to address certain things. Like outside of like Konami's not going to hit anything that would make the Fiendsmith stuff better because they want to sell that, especially with the North American World, Nationals coming up. They're not going to like preemptively hit that deck, especially with them importing that Link to Moon card. So the only way to do it to ensure that Snake Eyes Fiendsmith is not the best version of the deck, they're just going to do something to Snake Eyes to hinder it down, which I think would be very smart for Konami because that's going to allow a lot of diversity and a lot of showcase for Whitewood's. Going to show a lot of showcase for the Fiendsmith because these are two very strong decks that are going to be released at the time of Nationals. And if they showcase them and they do good, which they've been designed and they've been designed to do well, and they're very unique, powerful strategies that they could potentially sell more because of the coverage from Nationals. So I think it's only without a doubt the snake needs to be cut off at the head, and I am telling you that I am already typing right now a report to Konami because I'm tired of snakes being the root of all evil. I'm looking at you, Verte. It's ridiculous. And to be honest with you, like, it's just the power creep of the game. If we look at it, like, how cards have come, if you look at the comparison to the Wanted engine, to the Fiendsmith engine, the Fiendsmith do too much, man. Like, I don't care what anyone says. This engine is, like, 2 or 3 tiers ahead of what the Wanted as a splashable engine can do. Konami, please. I want to see, like, your guys's, like, do something this ban list. Don't wait till after Nationals, because we all know what deck will win Nationals if you don't do something. And if you do something, make it impactful. Make it shake up stuff, but do it within a reasonable amount of time. Don't do it, like, 2 days before Nationals. Be like, this is live on the day of Nationals, because that is just a cold, would be fun, but a cold thing to do to the player base. But what do you guys want to see hit on the ban list? What do you guys think of some of the predictions and wants that I have on this list? I want to hear your guys' more importantly. Remember, but before I put in every video, if you want to roast me, but do so constructively. But without further ado, you guys stay safe, stay healthy. This is Charles from Team COG, signing out.